What if the moment that defined your entire life happened in silence, when you believed no one was watching? Imagine a crowded shopping mall, alive with the buzz of footsteps, laughter, and the constant echo of announcements. People rushing past, with shopping bags, children tugging at their parents' hands, the hum of escalators carrying strangers up and down. And right in the middle of it all, one small sound that cut through the noise: the sob of a child. She was no more than 6 years old, her little shoulders trembling, her face hidden behind tiny hands. People passed by, glancing once, then moving on. Some shook their heads, some muttered, "Where's her mother?" But no one stopped. No one, except a young woman, Elena Morgan. She wasn't dressed to stand out. A faded blouse, sensible shoes, a cardigan that had been patched more than once, a receptionist at a downtown office, invisible to most, unnoticed by nearly everyone. Yet in that moment she knelt beside the girl. Slowly, gently, she took off her cardigan, the only decent one she owned, and wrapped it around the child's shaking shoulders. And then, without even realizing where it came from, she began to hum. A lullaby. Soft, low, carrying a strange familiarity. The little girl's sobs softened. Her tiny hand reached out, clutching Elena's sleeve as though she'd known her forever. What Elena didn't see was the man frozen a few feet away. A man with sharp features, expensive suit, polished shoes, and a phone buzzing endlessly in his hand. Richard Hale. A name etched into magazines, stock market headlines, and business networks. A man who believed money could fix everything. But in that instant, he couldn't breathe, because that lullaby, the one this stranger hummed, it wasn't just any song. It was the same lullaby his late wife used to sing to their daughter, Lily. Backstory: Elena. Elena had lived a quiet life. She worked at the front desk of a law firm where people barely remembered her name. Clients walked past her like she was furniture. Colleagues rarely asked her to lunch. She smiled politely, stamped papers, answered phones, and faded into the background. But Elena carried her own hidden battles. She had grown up in foster care, passed from one home to another, learning early that love was not permanent, that people left, that her presence didn't matter. The scars were invisible, but they never stopped aching. To survive, she taught herself kindness. If she couldn't control whether people stayed, she could at least offer warmth before they left. A smile here, a helping hand there. Nothing dramatic. Just small acts, seeds scattered into the world without expecting them to grow. Backstory: Richard and Lily. Richard Hale was the opposite, a man carved by ambition, defined by headlines. He rose before the sun, worked past midnight, built empires with iron discipline. His life was a schedule, his time a commodity, his love measured in expensive toys and 5-star vacations. But behind the glass walls of his success, a little girl sat alone. Lily, his daughter. She had everything a child could want, except the one thing she needed most: presence. Her mother had been the anchor of their world, softening Richard's edges, filling Lily's days with laughter and song. But cancer had stolen her too soon, leaving Richard scrambling to fill the void with money. It never worked. Lily withdrew. She grew quieter, lonelier. At night, she cried softly into her pillow, wishing someone would sing her to sleep again. And then, in the middle of a crowded mall, Elena appeared. Turning point, the mall scene extended. Richard stood frozen as he watched. His daughter clung to this stranger as though her heart had been waiting for her all along. And the song, God, that song. How could Elena possibly know it? He wanted to interrupt, to demand answers, but he couldn't. For the first time in years, Richard saw peace in his daughter's face. He couldn't bring himself to break it. Minutes passed like hours. When Lily finally looked up, her eyes were still wet, but her lips curved into the faintest smile. Elena brushed the hair back from her face and whispered, "You're safe. It's okay." And in that moment, something inside Richard cracked. The aftermath. Richard tracked Elena down, not in a threatening way, but with the desperate curiosity of a man who had witnessed something he couldn't explain. He offered her money at first, a clumsy attempt to repay kindness the only way he knew. But Elena refused. She wasn't interested. In his world, she had no place in it, she thought. Yet Lily begged to see her again, and again, and again. So slowly, reluctantly, Elena stepped into their lives, relationship growth, expansion. At first, it was awkward. Richard's mansion felt suffocating to Elena, filled with art she couldn't name and hallways that echoed with absence. But Lily didn't care. She held Elena's hand, asked her to read bedtime stories, clung to her presence the way she once clung to her mother's memory. Richard, meanwhile, struggled. He wasn't used to vulnerability. He didn't know how to say, "I'm sorry," or "I was wrong." But watching Elena with his daughter forced him to confront truths he had buried. There were nights he stood outside Lily's bedroom door, listening as Elena sang the lullaby, the same melody his wife once sang. And though it pained him, it also healed something inside. For Elena, the experience was equally transformative. She had always believed her life was small, insignificant, but here she was, shaping a little girl's world with nothing but gentleness. She began to realize that her scars hadn't made her weaker. They had made her capable of a deeper kind of love, conflict, expansion. But no story unfolds without struggle. Richard's colleagues whispered about the receptionist who had somehow entered his orbit. Elena faced judgmental stares from people who thought she didn't belong. She questioned herself daily. Why had Lily chosen her? Why had fate pulled her into this family's grief? And Richard wrestled with guilt. For years, he had chosen boardrooms over bedtime, deals over dinners. Could he ever undo the damage? Could he be the father Lily deserved? There were arguments, moments when Elena pulled away, convinced she had overstepped. Moments when Richard, overwhelmed by his own failures, pushed her aside. But every time, it was Lily who brought them back. Her tiny voice, her quiet need, reminding them both that love, no matter how imperfect, was better than absence, resolution, expansion. Over months, something extraordinary took shape. Elena wasn't just a stranger anymore. She became a friend, a confidant, a mother figure Lily had thought she lost forever. And Richard, he began to change. Meetings ended earlier. Phones were set aside. For the first time, he tucked his daughter into bed. Awkward at first, then softer with each attempt. One evening, as Elena hummed the lullaby, Richard joined in. His voice cracked, unpracticed but sincere. Lily looked up at both of them, her eyes shining with something priceless: security, family, love. In that moment, the three of them weren't defined by loss or loneliness. They were defined by choice, by the decision to show up for one another. Closing reflection. Life is strange. Sometimes the most powerful moments come not with fanfare but in silence. Not in boardrooms or grand speeches, but in a mall where a child cried and a stranger chose to stop. Elena thought she was invisible. Richard thought money could replace love. Lily thought she would never feel whole again. But one act of kindness changed everything. And if you remember nothing else from their story, remember this. The smallest choices, the cardigan draped over a child's shoulders, the lullaby whispered in a crowded place, can ripple outward in ways you may never fully see. Because kindness, even when unnoticed, has the power to rewrite lives. Sometimes, even